Overall thoughts on what you saw in your scrimmage today?
Good work. I have to see the film to see what was good and what wasn't. We got right at 100 plays. I think about 40 with the ones and twos, 20 with the threes, and a lot of guys got good reps. First time we've tackled all fall camp, so it was good to see where we stand there, what we need to get better. I thought the offense ran the ball well. I thought that was a really good sign offensively. Defensively, probably up and down, but then had a goal line stand, got a couple turnovers, and really battled and kind of finished the scrimmage better, which was good.
How big is that? Well, and really both sides of the ball, the offense reacting to being tackled for the first time and the defense really being able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's big. We actually went live on some special team stuff just because, we're physical the way we practice. We don't have to tackle a lot to get what we need to get accomplished, but, we don't want 3 weeks from today, the first time our punt returner is catching a live punt or a kick returner, ball carrier, or the defense tackling in space, to be when it matters. So we got to get enough live tackling in to be crisp for a game one, because our opponent's going to have already played a game, and at the same time, not overdo it. So it's a fine line.
A week ago, you said that early on your defense was ahead of your offense. Today, your ones on offense had some success early on. Is the offense closing the gap, or was there some sloppiness on the defensive side? What did you see?
Well, I think so. I think it's a couple things. I think the offense is closing the gap, which is good. We've had good back and forth in all the practices. And, like I told them yesterday, we had a good practice. That's the other thing. We've practiced a full practice yesterday, so it wasn't like we were getting ready for today. But, I told them most practices I don't really know who got the better of who now, which is a good thing. There's some give and take both ways. I think the other thing, we had officials. It was game-like. We started playing with tempo, a lot more realistic than we do in practice. So all that's an adjustment for a defense. And I thought yesterday and today the offense got better. I thought Preston had 2 good days. But at the same time, defense has had a lot of success as well.
Halfway through fall camp, a little over halfway through fall camp now, just kind of, do you feel like you're where you want to be, and kind of how important is that final stretch to maybe even take a bigger step than you did?
Yeah, no, we're not where we want to be at all. We've had 9 good practices. Guys are working hard. They're competing. But we play in 3 weeks, and I'm glad we got all 3 weeks. Next week's an important week for us because it's the last true week before school starts. So we got 5 practices next week that are really important for guys that are competing to start or be in the rolling with the ones rotation. To fine tune, we got to build a lot of depth too. So there's a lot of guys that are competing there. So I think next week's pretty important for us.
Your roster, especially on the offensive side, looks like it has depth in the skill positions that hasn't been seen around here in quite a while. How much does that allow you and Coach Woods to really expand the playbook and add wrinkles, or is it more about refining what you installed in your first year last year?
Yeah, I don't think we're really trying to expand the playbook per se in terms of volume. You might do things that fit certain guys' skill set a little more. The thing you hope with depth is, we may not have a guy lead the country or lead the league in receiving. That's fine if we have 5, 6, 7 guys that are dependable, all making plays. So we'll see. Every year some guy usually kind of emerges, but if it's going the way it could be fairly balanced, which is good for us because we feel like a lot of guys have earned the right to play and do those things. It's the same thing at running back, So, and how seasons go. Unfortunately, guys get banged up, so you're going to need the depth.
Kind of seen that a little bit. I know Curly missed a couple days. Jordan's not going full go right now. How big is that to then give some other guys? I know, with Kamar battling his thing, looked like Velton got a bunch of reps. Obviously, then Zane moves up a spot. For those guys, whether it's, big injuries, small injuries, personal things, to maybe give guys days off and see what some other guys can do thrown in some different positions.
I think it's important just because it's realistic. Fortunately, we don't have any major injuries. I think all our things are minor, and guys that maybe didn't go today will hopefully be going next Saturday. But there also may be some guys that went today that can't go next Saturday, right? And so, that's the way it is week to week. And so practice gives you the opportunity to give those guys opportunities to step up and see what they can do.
To follow up on the depth, on the offensive line, you've had a couple people move around a little bit. Ja'Kai Clark had previously taken some snaps at guard. Today he got some at center. Ben Sparks played both left and right side. Do you still want people to be able to move around like that, or are you deep enough that you'd like to have guys who stay specifically at one spot?
Well, I think once we settle in 2 weeks out, we'll try to settle guys in a little bit more. But now it's where Coach Justice is seeing what those guys can handle, moving them around, mixing and matching for, when we get in the season, okay, a guy goes down, how do you mix and match and how do you plug those holes? So, that part's been good to see. And a guy like Ja'Kai, I mean, he'll tell you he's way overweight. I mean, he never played at that weight when we had him in Miami. So we'll have to see, how the season goes, how quickly he can try to lighten up, because the ability's there, but he's got to lighten up a little bit.
One injury that maybe is a little more significant, Cam Irvin.
Yeah.
I know Coach Justice said you don't expect him out for the season. Do you have any more details?
Yeah, the good news is nothing was broken. It's just a bad high ankle, which is good. So it's kind of week to week. I mean, at this point, it's hard to even say if he's ready for game one or not. But by no means do we expect it to be season ending. So everyone's different on high ankles. Sometimes they take 3 to 4 weeks. Sometimes they take 6 weeks. So luckily for a lineman, they come back quicker than a skill guy because the cutting's different. So fortunately for us, so it wasn't as bad as it maybe could have been or thought it was.
And then Charles Woods hasn't been out on the practice field.
Yep. Charles is good. Charles, about whatever it was, 5 practices ago, was fine, just got a little overheated. Our team did a great job. He's totally fine. We just ran some labs, and we decided to hold him this week. He should start his return to play, hopefully, this week, and we have no reason to believe he won't be back fairly soon.
One guy who missed some time in the spring, Jalen Samuels, back out there with you. He looks physically bigger than he did certainly a year ago at this time. What have you seen from him after missing some spring and now back in the rotation on a deeper defensive line?
Yeah, I mean, he's explosive. He's long and athletic. He's got get off in the pass game, but what he's working really hard at is he's trying to be more physical in the run game, where he's not just a third down guy. And I think he's taken pretty good strides there, and he's good to have him healthy, and he's had 9 really good practices.
That secondary seems like there's a really good rotation there. Obviously, with Charles out, Jahari's getting some first-team reps. Bryce McMorris had a really nice play out there today. He's obviously still coming off a major injury and everything. But that secondary, how big is that just for this group and what you guys expect from them and taking that next step defensively?
Yeah, no, it's important. I mean, we're going to need the depth. I think what you've seen even today is, the way they're playing, we're not giving up tons of explosives down the field in the pass game. And even the balls that the offense caught today were contested, and so if we can do that, keep the ball in front of us and make people earn it, I think we got the athleticism on the outsides better than we have in a long time. So it's been good to see those guys rotate, because Coach Hundley feels like he can rotate them, and that's encouraging.
With all the increased depth, does that allow you to protect more of your first line guys from special teams duty?
Honestly, we're actually going to do it the absolute opposite. We're going to play all our best players on special teams. We were terrible on kickoff a year ago. About the only thing we did right on punt was not get one blocked. I don't remember how many punts we dropped, but it wasn't good. And we caught kicks at the 1 yard line. So, Coach Cooper and them have done a good job of trying to, we probably didn't lose games because of our special teams last year, but we certainly didn't help ourselves, and we certainly didn't win games. And so, I think the depth allows us to play more 1s and 2s on teams. And you're going to see most starters on at least 1 unit, maybe 2. And then hopefully in game, you can roll guys, and if a guy goes a few times on kickoff and you need to put another guy in for him, there's not a big drop-off. And it's a third of the game. It's pretty important.
Been a lot of talk about this being a player-led team and a lot of guys taking on that role, whether they're new guys, whether they're guys that maybe didn't do that last year. One name that keeps coming up, Jonathan McGill. What is it like to add that kind of leader who didn't come in running his mouth right away, wanted to earn that spot and seemed like he earned it quickly? Grizz talked about him asking to be on that little leadership group that he did in the summer. But just to have a guy like that with the experience, the knowledge, everything that he brings to also be a leader.
I think leadership's huge. I mean, I don't know if we're a player-led team yet. I think we have the ability to be one. I think we have a lot of guys who are trying to do things the right way, have leadership ability. So we have potential there, just like as a team. It remains to be seen on what we do. I do think a guy like Jonathan brings a lot of experience. He's played, college football for 3 years in a really good league, and he's been a captain. Leadership's kind of a natural thing for him, and we've needed that on the defensive side of the ball. And what's good is it's not just him. We've got other guys that are stepping up, and we'll find out if we have a player-led team when we hit some adversity. And that just hadn't happened yet. So when that happens, then we'll know.
Coach Woods was talking last week about the added talent in the tight end room. Obviously, you have R.J. Maryland back. Nolan appears to be healthy again. But you've also added Micah as a transfer and the 3 freshmen, Adam Moore, Trip Reardon, and Lonnie Johnson. Have you had enough time to see what they've got, and do you have an idea when they might start working into the rotation?
We did add depth and numbers. Micah Hiltz has been out since the second or third day with a bruised shoulder. Hope to get him back this week to see what he can do. And those freshmen, we do think have talent, but they're freshmen. So this next week will be big for those guys to see how far away they are and maybe how quickly we can get them to where they can help us if we need them. I do think Nolan Matthews is much improved. He's more physical. And I think RJ's playing at 240, which helps him. And he's more physical, and he still obviously can do what he do catching the football. So we have the potential to have a better unit there. We're still not deep in terms of experience, but we are more athletic.
Defense has talked a little bit about bringing maybe a little more edge, maybe taking away from a little bit of SMU being an offense-only type team. How big is that it seems like it starts with Coach Simons, but the players have really bought into it, and they're taking that on both, in practice and kind of that mentality? Yeah.
Well, that's the edge we want them to have. I mean, that's no secret. I've said it's been about 4 decades since we've had a top 40 defense. And we don't have to have a top 40 defense to be successful, but we have to have a defense with an edge. We have to be able to stop the run and play with some confidence. And that's the thing. I think we're faster. I think they play faster in the first 9 days. Now we just got to be able to put it together. I mean, someone asked the other day, I think they said, hey, what's it take to be great? And the simple difference between being good and great is consistency. And we've got the ability to be good at times right now, but we're nowhere near great because we're too inconsistent. That's not just on defense, that's everywhere. So that's why we practice. That's why I thank God we got 3 more weeks.